Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Kandana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Yamuna Tiravana Jaya Radha Maharava Kunja Bihari Jai Bhaktivinode Thakur ki jai. So So that's one way we always connected with Bhaktivinode Thakur, right? Everyone in the world sings that song every day, at least if you go to class. And the Bhagavatam verse is which one? There's a marker fell out.
23, 127, right? 27, yeah. According to the thing.
First canto? Third canto.
First. 3, 127.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Which chapter?
What's that?
Chapter?
First chapter. 3, third canto, first chapter, verse 27.
Okay. Kachit Karunam Parama Surin Na Bhamaha Sa Aste Sukam Anga Shori Yovai Swashrinam Pitrivad Dadati Varun Vedanya Vara Tarpanena Kachit Karunam Paramatsarinau Bhama sa aste sukamanga shori Yovai swashrinam pritivedadati Varan vadinyo varas tarpanena Okay, so others.
Kachit Gurunam Paramasuhrino.
Kachit Gurunam Paramasuhrino.
Bhama Saaste Sukamanga Sori.
Bhamam samaste sukamanga tori.
Yovai Svashrinam Pitrivadadati.
Yovai swashrinam pritivedadati
Varam Vadanyo Bharatarpanena.
Varandapanyo Bharatarpanena
Kachit Gurunam Paramasuhrino.
Kachit Gurunam
Paramasuhrino.
Bhamasa Aste Sukamangashari.
Bhamasa Aste Sukamangashari.
Yovai Sarshinam Prativadadati.
Yovai Sarshinam Prativadadati.
Vadanyo Vadatarpanena.
Vadanyo Vadatarpanena.
Kachit Gurunam
Paramasuhrino.
Bhamasa Aste Sukamangashari.
Yovai Sarshinam Pitrivadadati. Vadanyo Vadatarpanena.
Kachit Gurunam Paramamsurunino.
Chit Gurunam Paramaksurino
Bhamasa Aste Sukam Angashori.
Bhama sa aste sukamanga shori
Yovai Sava Surinam Pritvivad Dadati
Yo vai swashinam pritivad dadati
Varan Vadanyo Varatarpanena
varan vadanyo varatarpanena
Kachit Gurunam Paramasurana Kachit Gurunam Paramasurano
Kachit kurunam paramasurino
Bhamasaste Sukamanga Shauri
Bhama saaste sukamanga shori
Yo Vaisvashanam Pitruvadadati
Yo vai swasrinam pritivaddadati
Varan Vadanyo Varatarpanena
Varan vadanyo varatarpanena. Very good. Kachit,
Kachit
weather.
Weather
Not the weather outside. Weather, different weather. Yeah. Karunam
Kurunam
of the Kurus.
of the Kurus
Parama,
Parama
greatest. Surit,
Suhrit
well-wisher.
Well-wisher
Na,
Na
our. Bhama,
Bhama
brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law
Sa,
Sa
he.
He
Aste,
Aste
is.
is
Sukam,
Sukam
happy.
Happy
Anga,
Ananda
O Uddhava.
Uddhava
Shori,
Shauri
Vasudev.
Vasudev
Ya,
Ya
one who.
One who
Vai,
I
certainly.
certainly
Swasrinam,
Swasri
of the sisters.
of the sisters
Pitrivat,
Pitruvat
like a father.
like father
Dadati,
Dati
gives. Varan,
Varan
everything
everything
desirable.
desirable
Vadanya,
Vadanya
munificent. Vara,
Vara
wife.
Wife
Tarpanena,
Tarpaneni
by pleasing. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudeva, is doing well. He is very munificent. He's like a father to his sisters, and he's always pleasing to his wives. And that's Vasudeva, Krishna's father. Purport. Lord Krishna's father, Vasudeva, had 16 wives, and one of them, named Pauravi or Rohini, the mother of Baladev, was the sister of Vidura. Vasudeva, therefore, was the husband of Vidura's sister, and thus they were brothers-in-law. Vasudeva's sister Kunti was the wife of the Pandu, Vidura's elder brother, and in that sense also Vasudeva was brother-in-law to Vidura. Kunti was younger than Vasudeva, and it was the duty of the elder brother to treat younger sisters as daughters. Whenever anything was needed by Kunti, it is munificently delivered by Vasudeva, due to his great love for his younger sister. Vasudeva never dissatisfied his wives. At the same time, he supplied the objects desired by his sister. He had special attention for Kunti because she became a widow at an early age. While inquiring about Vasudeva's welfare, Vidura remembered all about him and the family relationship. Om Gana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksuramilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane. And today's disappearance, is it? Bhaktivinode. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Satchit Ananda Vigraha Rupanuga Viruda Apasiddhanta. No, getting it all mixed up.
Yeah, you're mixing.
Huh? Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Vigraha Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nuga Variety, the follower of Rupa. Of course, we're all supposed to be Rupa Nuga. Namo Mahavadhanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Trishe Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. So I was asked to say, we got a lot of family information there. Does anybody know how Vidura had a sister?
How Vidura did what?
Had a sister.
Yeah, I was thinking about that myself.
I never heard of it before. Of course, there was.
It's the son of Vyasa. So it must have been from the maiden.
Well, it could be that, you know, in the Vedas, sometimes when they say sister, they mean cousin sister, you know. Or
Yeah, so many different things.
sometimes like that, because as far as I know, he was born from a maidservant.
A maidservant by Vyasadeva.
Vyasa, you know, I don't,
So he wouldn't have a sister from the same mother and father.
yeah.
But they have all kinds of brothers and sisters in
Right.
Vedic culture. When I was in Fiji, I was really bewildered at first, going in the village, because some of these men had like 15 or 20 kids, you know. And so there'd be someone holding a baby and say, "This is my uncle." The baby's their uncle.
Well, I get King Pandu can be considered his half brother and married to Kunti, so they're sister-in-law.
Yeah, that's another thing. So. Anyway, there's all those different. They don't make much difference. They don't make much distinction between father and uncle and auntie and mother, and they move back and forth and live with one for a while and come back. So it's hard for the Western, you know, nuclear family people to understand. So today is the disappearance of Bhaktivinode, so I was asked to speak. Bhaktivinode, I think we're all familiar with the basic life of Bhaktivinode, which is quite amazing. There's a whole book by Rupa Vilas Prabhu, the Seventh Goswami. That title, Seventh Goswami, was given to him by a British officer, you know, some British guy.
British officer?
Somebody, yeah, British that recognized his.
My understanding was given by the editor and publisher of
Some British guy.
the Bangla Patrika or whatever it is.
No, some British guy gave him that title. He knew about it. So, anyway, he's very exalted. People could understand that. And he was so good at as a judge, as a magistrate. He had the highest position that an Indian-bodied person could get in the British government. They were very caste conscious, you know. If you were 100% British, then you could have any high position. And if you had a British father and an Indian mother, then there's another level. And if you had British mother and an Indian father, then you're down a little bit more, and if you're Indian, then you're down another step. But he had a very high position, and for years he tried to quit because he just wanted to serve Lord Chaitanya, and they wouldn't let him quit because he was so good at it. And then he was a magistrate for Jagannath Puri, and when he went there, the whole offering, everything was not in good condition, everything was untimely and not proper, and he got it all straightened out. At one point he found out the king was using funds that were supposed to be for the temple for himself, and he actually made a case against the king. And the king hired all kinds of Brahmins to curse him to death, and ended up the king's son got sick or something. So Bhaktivinode won and made the king pay for all the offerings. Many, many things. But the main thing we have is his writing. So every day we're singing Jai Radha Madhava, which Prabhupada said is a total description of this Goloka. Bhaja Bhakata, many temples sing that at noon arti, Kipa Jayo, and so many other bhajans from Bhaktivinode Thakur, because he gave all the Vedic wisdom in the simple Bengali language, which was a big step. Of course, Narottam also did that, but Bhaktivinode picked up on the same thing, and it's stated that his writings are non-different than the Vedas. He's on such a high level. He was rebellious. He never took second initiation because he didn't want to be identified with the Brahmin society at the time. They were so degraded. So there's still people that don't accept him as bona fide because he didn't. And he took as his main Shiksha Guru was Jagannath Das Babaji, who was recognized as the greatest Babaji. And Gaur Kishore Das Babaji was also recognized as a great, Babaji, Vaishnava. But he came in every day to listen to Bhaktivinode speak on Bhagavatam. And that's how Bhaktisiddhanta met him. And then he ordered Bhaktisiddhanta to be initiated by him. Even though he was illiterate, but he knew everything from listening. And Bhaktisiddhanta was a great scholar, so that's a whole other pastime. And finally he managed to get himself transferred to Krishnagar, and then he was finally able to move over there to Sukhada Kunja, across the Jalangi. In Mayapur, that's where he wanted to be, because he had, even still there's people claiming that the birthplace is in the current city of Navadvip. Even last time I was there, they'd put up a whole new place across from that Dham, the Gauranga, and Dhameshwar Gauranga, claiming it to be Srivas Thakur's house or something. Bhaktivinode read that Mayapur was on the eastern side of the Ganga, but the modern Navadvip is on the other side. So he started searching and looking, and from his balcony he saw one place, and there was some effulgence there. And he went there, and that was it was a Muslim village named Miyapur. From Mayapur it become Miyapur. And there was one area full of tulsi, and the Muslim said, "This is a useless place here. Nothing will grow except tulsi. We dig up the tulsi, we plant eggplant, and only tulsi grows." So he thought this must be the right place. So that's when he got Jagannath Das Babaji to come. And when he got there, even though he was being carried in a basket. He was 140 years old or something. But still, if there was a really great kirtan, like if he came out here to the park or something, he might start dancing, but he would jump up and start dancing. Even though the only way he could see would have to pick up here because all the skin was hanging down, and tie a cloth around his head, and he was all hunched over. And he jumped out and started dancing. It's, this is the place, this is the place, this is the place. So Bhaktivinode built a small temple there. And that's the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Later it was still being challenged, so Bhaktisiddhanta brought surveyors from England. And they, by scripture and all the references, it's so far from here and there, and they proved it also. So he built a bigger temple. And when they were digging, they found the deity that Lord Chaitanya's father had been worshiping. So many things. The main thing are his books, the famous books. The most important is that, besides all these bhajans, which give all philosophy, is the Jaiva Dharma, and another one, Chaitanya Shikshashtaka, which explain everything about bhakti in relation to this and all the different levels. And Jaiva Dharma is quite simple. It's written in conversations between devotees, questions and answers. And then the Chaitanya Shikshashtaka is a very academic work giving all the same information. From the very beginning, how to relate to other religions. It's interesting what he says. That if we see someone from another religious practice, we should think they're worshiping the same God I do, but in a different way. And by watching them, I can learn something about my Lord also. He never wanted to condemn anybody. So he wrote in English profusely, he wrote in Bengali profusely, and he wrote in Sanskrit. Not ordinary scholar, And he wrote so much, he slept very little. So there's a very nice poem in English that I think really gives a full idea of our philosophy and also Bhaktivinode's consciousness. It's called Saragrahi Vaishnav. It's easy to find online if anybody wants to read along. Madhavisa Prabhu had this memorized and could recite it really nicely, but I won't compete. Saragrahi Vaishnav. Alas, for those who spend their days in festive mirth and joy, the dazzling, deadly liquid forms their hearts forever employ. The shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their hearts' embrace. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. So he must have gone in the pub or something. Anybody ever been in a bar? The bottles are very beautiful, right? Very beautiful bottles, and the whiskey bottles or the wine shop. There's one down the road here. The slave, was man intended to be a brute in work and heart? Should man, the Lord of all around, from common sense depart? Man's glory is in common sense, dictating us the grace that man is made to live and love the beauteous heaven's embrace. The flesh is not our own, alas, the mortal frame a chain. The soul confined for former wrongs should try to rise again. That's British. So chain and again rise. They rhyme. Why then the childish play in that which cannot be our own, which falls within 100 years, as if a rose a blown? I saw in Japan, I would walk through this one rose garden at night, and I was picking flowers and thinking, I'm sure this is highly illegal. Then I was in there in the daytime, and when the flowers get a little old, they come in with a big blower and just knock them all off anyway. So then I thought, okay, I'll pick them at night. So they just gets blown away by the wind, after it starts to loosen up. Our life is but a rosy hue, to go ere long for naught. The soul alone would last forever, with good or evil fraught. How deep the thoughts of times to be, how grave the aspect looks, and wrapped in awe become, O we, when reading nature's books. Man's life to him a problem dark, a screen both left and right, no soul that's come to tell us what exists beyond our sight. But then a voice, how deep and soft, from within ourselves is felt, from within ourselves is felt. Man, man, thou art immortal soul, thee death can never melt. For thee thy sire on high has kept a store of bliss above. To end of time thou art, O his, who wants his purest love. O love, thy power and spell benign, now melt my soul to God. How can my earthly words describe that feeling soft and broad? Enjoyment, sorrow, but what lots, to which the flesh is heir. The soul that sleeps alone concludes, in him it hath a share. But then, my friends, no more enjoy, nor weep for all below. The women wine in flesh of beasts, no love on thee bestow. That's a good one, huh? The women wine in flesh of beasts, no love on thee bestow. But deign to love thy brother man, and give thyself to God. And God doth know your wages fair. This fact is true and broad. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future. He has this memorized. Right?
What's that?
You have it memorized, huh?
I have part of it memorized. Hansaduda turned it into a song in an album.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to it, and that's why it's actually.
Forget the past that sleeps, and never the future dream at all. This is hankering and lamenting. Nasochati nakangshati, right? That's Bhagavad Gita. But act in times that are with thee now. Do it now. Chant the holy name and try to wake people up by giving them books. Then progress thee shall call. But tell me not in reasoning cold, the soul is made alone by earth's mechanic, lifeless rules, and to destruction blown. So that's modern science, that the body is put together somehow, and that's what produces the soul. May my God, who gave us life and all, alone the soul can kill, or give it all the joys above, his promise to fulfill. So push thy onward march, O soul, against an evil deed that stands with soldiers, hate and lust. A hero be indeed. Maintain thy post in spirit world as firmly as you can, but let never matter push thee down. O stand, heroic man. O Saragrahi Vaishnav soul. Thou art an angel fair. Lead me on to Vrindavan, and Spirit's power declare. There rest my soul from matter free, upon my lover's arms. Eternal peace and Spirit's love are all my chanting charms. So it's amazing. It's not his native language, but we know what a fantastic poet he is from any one of the bhajans in Bengali. They're, like the Beatles songs or something, you can memorize them like so fast, right? Jai Radha Madhava, how long does it take to learn it? Jeev Jago. They're so simple, but they're containing all Vedic wisdom. There's another poem he wrote in English also, and this is to Haridas Thakur. O born of Muslim parents, Haridas, and trained in youth in Muslim creed, thy noble heart to Vaishnav truth did pass. Thy holy acts, thy candor plead. Is there a soul that cannot learn from thee that man must give up sect for God? The thoughts of race and sect can never agree with what they call religion broad. That's a huge issue now, race and sect and gender choice. And it just doesn't fit with any kind of religious idea, so everyone is becoming atheist. They just think, I am this body, and my duty is to glorify and decorate my body. And anyway, it used to be just clothes, and now you have to paint it, and so many things. Thy love of God and brother soul alone, bereft thyself of early friends. Thy softer feelings oft to kindness prone, led on thyself to higher ends. I weep to read that Qazis and their men oft persecuted thee, alas. But thou didst nobly pray for the wicked then, for thou wert Vaishnav Haridas. And God is boundless grace to thee, O man, united thee to one who came to save the fallen souls from evil's plan of taking human souls to shame. And he it was who led you all that came for life eternal, holy, pure. And gave you rest in heaven's enduring name and sacred blessings ever sure. Thy body rest on sacred sands, O Shwargadara near the sea. O hundreds came to thee from distant lands to enjoy a holy thrilling glee. The waters roar and storming winds avail thy ears in vain, a Vaishnav soul. The charms of Vrindavan thy heart regale. Unknown the wheel of time doth toll. He reasons ill that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to, what?
Spread the holy name around.
Spread the holy name around. Now let the candid man who seeks to live follow the way of shores of time. Thy prosperity is sure to give him will. Live like one song in a simple rhyme. Should probably take the normal time for breakfast to have a few Vaishnava Bhaktivinode bhajans, right?
Yes, we agree, Maharaj.
Who has their favorite bhajans they can sing? Right, everybody must. Yeah. I like Kabe Habe Bolo, Saydinam. So today's also Gadadhar Pandits. What? Disappearance. So that's Gadadhar Pandit, right? Or Gadadhar Das, which one? He's the Panchatattva Gadadhar. So he's not an ordinary soul. He's the most intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya, along with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. He was a childhood friend, always. And he's actually Radharani, who wanted more association, not having to sneak around. So he became a man, and Sachimata, Radharani's mother-in-law, was order her to stay away from Krishna. Sachimata ordered her, Gadadhar, to always be with Gauranga, with Nimai, because he had able to calm him down when he was in the transcendental trance of ecstasy. He could somehow calm him down. And he went also to Puri at the same time, and he took a Chaitra sannyas, a special sannyas, where you never leave the one place. Most sannyasis are bound to travel all the time, and then Lord Chaitanya found the deity of Gopinath and gave it to Gadadhar in his lifetime service. And every day they would meet together for 3 hours and read Srimad Bhagavatam. They're very intimate. And Gadadhar was also an expert cook, and Lord Chaitanya relished his cooking. And what did they read more than any other? They read the whole Bhagavatam, but some parts they especially read again and again.
Prahlad, Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj.
Yeah, Dhruva and Prahlad. So that's another, people might ask, well, why, why aren't they reading the 10th canto? Maybe to show people, but they really appreciated Dhruva and Prahlad and how they suffered, because of their love for Krishna. So Gadadhar had this tremendous, attachment for Lord Chaitanya. And so when Lord Chaitanya was leaving for one tour, Gadadhar was saying, I'll go with you. So it's something like, when the gopis always wanted to go with Krishna into the forest and the cowherd, but they never could. So Lord Chaitanya said, you can't go because you have this vow to serve Gopinath. And if you go with me and you give up your vow, then I will be responsible for the offense. So you can't go. So he said, okay, I'll just go on my own, even though you don't want me to, so therefore it'll be my offense, not, you won't have to suffer. And Lord Chaitanya didn't agree, but so Gadadhar followed him, and they went some distance to the river, and then Lord Chaitanya had to cross the river. So he got in the boat, and he just left Gadadhar on the other side. And I suppose he told the driver, don't go back, don't go back and pick him up. So Gadadhar just fell unconscious and in misery, and then Sarvabhauma came and picked him up and explained to him that he got special mercy, that the Lord saved him from the offense of giving up his vow of serving Gopinath. So he carried on with that service to Gopinath. Now, who's ever been to Gopinath, Tota Gopinath temple? Anybody? It's a very unique deity of Krishna. He's sitting down like this, but he's really tall, right? Yeah, he's very tall anyway, but he's sitting down. So the story is that after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, Gadadhar and all the associates, they just became so miserable in separation. They didn't eat, they weren't sleeping, they were just crying all the time. And they were growing old very fast. So Gadadhar got where he couldn't reach up and dress as a very tall deity, and he couldn't reach up, and so Gopinath sat down for him. So he was able to put the crowns and the garlands. So a special place, that Tota Gopinath temple. Because that Lord Chaitanya stayed there, so much, and read the Srimad Bhagavatam in that temple every day. So Gadadhar was a great Bhagavatam scholar, and after disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, and Srinivas Acharya went there to study Bhagavatam, and Gadadhar only had one copy, but it was illegible. He knew it by heart, and when he was reading, he would cry so much that it wiped out everything. He couldn't read it. So with great effort, Srinivas found another book, and then he was studying with Gadadhar. And then for some reason he left. He went to Navadvip, trying to meet Lord Chaitanya or meet Nityananda, I think, Nityananda. But he got there too late. Then when he was coming back again to study with Gadadhar, as he was getting near Puri, he met one Brahmin coming back the other way, informed him that Gadadhar had left, so that he was devastated. Then he went to Vrindavan to try to meet Rupa and Sanatan. But just before he got there, he met someone that told him, they had disappeared. So it was, very difficult times. So Gadadhar, he was a disciple of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. That's another story. A great lesson. Mukunda, who was from the same, he knew Pundarik. The other devotees in Navadvip, they didn't know him. They just knew that Lord Chaitanya was waiting for this Pundarik. So Mukunda asked Gadadhar. Gadadhar was a very simple Brahmin boy, and would you like to meet a great Vaishnava? He said, of course, So they went to Pundarik, but Pundarik was a big zamindar, very, very rich man. And he had a very opulent house. And he was dressed in beautiful silken clothes with all kinds of jewelry and earrings, and his hair was oiled and scented oils, and and flower garlands, and he had a beautiful table and beautiful flower vases, and people were fanning him. And Gadadhar, in his mind, he thought, how can this be a great Vaishnava? Because his experience as Vaishnavas were all really renounced. And so Mukunda could catch on what Gadadhar was thinking. So he recited a sloka from the Bhagavatam about how merciful Krishna is, that even Putana, who came to try to kill him, was given such an exalted position. And when Pundarik heard that, he started howling and crying, and how merciful Krishna is, and he ripped off his turban, and he started rolling on the ground and crying, and his clothes were getting torn. He knocked over the flower vases, and all his jewelry was breaking, and he'd fall unconscious for a very long time and get up and go through this whole thing again and again, just crying. This Krishna is so merciful. So Gadadhar understood that I made a mistake, and he's actually really exalted Vaishnava. So he decided the only way I can atone for this aparad is to take initiation from him and surrender to him. So Mukunda said, that sounds like a good idea. So they went to Lord Chaitanya, and he said, yes, very good. So they picked an auspicious day, and Pundarik got the mantra from, Gadadhar got the mantra from Pundarik. So he was his disciple. And we're chanting the name of Gadadhar many times, and we should always remember Panchatattva, Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhar. Gadadhar, very important. Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya his whole life, and we can learn a lot. I have slipped lately, but I remember in Mayapur when I do Artik there, I would always pray to Gadadhar that I could somehow get a taste for reading Srimad Bhagavatam, since he was extremely dedicated to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so much so that Lord Chaitanya studied with him. And we should want that, you know. Srimad Bhagavatam is non different than Krishna, it's also Kirtan. And Prabhupada made such an inconceivable effort to give us Srimad Bhagavatam. Try to imagine getting up at 1 o'clock every morning and translating until, 5 o'clock or something. And then all day doing all kinds of activities, not sleeping all day. And doing that every night, no matter how he was traveling, no matter where he was, so that we could have Srimad Bhagavatam to read. And of course, when we read it, then we want to distribute it, because we want other people to have it. Prabhupada, the other miracle of what Prabhupada did was make it accessible, not only in language, in the English language, because some people could translate it and we wouldn't be able to understand it at all, or their commentaries are, hodgepodge. But Prabhupada made it accessible to everyone in the Kali Yuga. And Bhaktivinode Thakur also, he made many commentaries on he wrote so many books. I remember when I read that book, the 6th, 7th Goswami, there's a list of all the writings of Bhagavad. I got tired just reading about all the books he wrote. So many literatures. And if you look at the, Sharanagati, there are just so many bhajans, and all divided up. Everything was so specifically and scientific to understand what is humility, what is this, what is that. So we should sing those bhajans. This is a good time to really meditate on Bhaktivinode Thakur. So I'll leave it here. And we have all our Gandharvas here, can sing the songs, whichever one they like. Some of them are extremely popular, Yasomati Nandana, and what else? Right? And all just names of Krishna, Bibhavari, Shesha, and somehow they all rhyme and they all make sense. And,
Catchy.
Huh?
It's like catchy vibes.
Yeah, just so incredible thing, Okay. Bhaktivinode Thakur ki jai, Gadadhar Pandit ki jai, Vidura ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. The dazzling, deadly liquid forms their hearts forever employ. The shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their hearts' embrace. The slaves of wine can never rise from what they call disgrace. Jai. Thank you very much. So, who wants to sing some bhajan?
Yes, we'll sing some bhajan, Maharaj.
Yeah, I'm asking, who will do it?